Welcome back. My name is Scott McGurn. I live in southern Alberta, Canada. We're talking about terrorism. This is part 4. Now, I've spent my life going across the US, Canada. I know a lot about both countries. I'm going to share with you some information. We need to know what's going on. We need to know who's fanning the flames of terrorism. We need to understand that when we wonder who's the cause for this, well, we can look in the mirror, and that's a sad statement because our tax dollars are fanning the flames of terrorism in the United States, in Canada, in Great Britain, in Australia, and in New Zealand. Okay? When that Prime Minister was saying how bad she feels, it was inspiring. I mean, it really was believable, but the fact is, we're all paying into a system that fans the flames. The system, our own system, wants people to attack Muslims and vice versa. They want to fan the flames of hatred, okay? They want to suspend our civil rights. They want to bring in severe gun control, okay? They want people to be afraid. They want people to rely on government for everything, and they want people to be afraid. They're the ones, these government people, they're the ones that made 9/11 happen. And they had an agenda which I explained already. They brought in the Patriot Act, they took away civil liberties from across the United States, and this ripple effect went around the world. Canadians lost many of their civil liberties, so did Australians, so did New Zealanders. Okay, this is a fascist movement. This is very much a fascist movement. They can call it neoliberalism, they can call it whatever they want, they can call it Reaganomics. All we know is it's a fascist movement. Now, when I'm in the United States, one thing I've noticed is you got no access to information whatsoever. When I'm down there, I can look at every channel. I can do the CNN, the MSNBC, I can pick up a newspaper, and I got no idea what's going on in the world. I've got no idea what's going on in the United States. You know, they did a poll about basic facts about how the American political system works, who's the president, who's the vice president, and they did this amongst people inside and outside the United States. You know who didn't know about anything going on in the United States? Well, you guessed it. The people living in the United States had no idea how their own political system worked. The rest of the world did. They had no idea. People couldn't name the vice president of the United States. They could, even in third world nations, but not in the United States, not in the USA. You are getting less information every year, every single year. People make jokes about it on TV. They say, oh, Americans are stupid. I know Americans are not stupid. I got relatives all over the United States. They're not stupid people. They're very intelligent people. People with no access to information. Now, in my last video, down at the end, if you scroll down, you'll see I gave you all kinds of ways you can get information off of the internet. Now, it's sad you have to go on the internet to get information. You can't turn on your own TV and get information. It's gotten that bad here in Canada too. I got to go online for everything because they're dumbing us down. They don't want us to have access to information. They don't want us to know that they're phasing out the middle class, okay? In France, the people know that they're phasing out the middle class. In France, they've got the Yellow Vest movement. People are rioting, they're protesting. They've got 85% support in the polls, this Yellow Vest movement. But you know who's never heard about the Yellow Vest movement? Well, Americans. They don't show stuff like that on TV in the United States. Everywhere else in the world they can hear about it, learn all about it, but not in the United States. The fascists consider the United States to be their #1 priority. They've got to brainwash the American people, strip them of their civil liberties, which they've already done, and then disarm them. At that point, they'll be able to complete the process of phasing out the middle class. Now, Ronald Reagan with his trickle-down policy, followed up by Bill Clinton with NAFTA, they have established what is a very strong wave of all the money in the middle class going up to the top. Now, you might think it's too late to prevent that, but no, I don't think it is. Maybe it is, but maybe it's not. But think about this. I want you to think about taxation for a second. Now, in other countries, you pay your taxes and you get all of it back in regard to free health care, quality education, quality roads, a justice system that works, an honest police department. You get all that money back. What do you get back in the United States for all the taxes that you pay? What do you get? You have nice airports like other countries do? You got nice roads and bridges? Is your rail system up to date? You know, do you have order and peace and goodwill? You know, do you have any of those things? What do you get back from the tax dollars that you pay? Now, in the last video, I explained how military spending is a way of taking money from the middle class, transferring it to the upper class. It doesn't leave the United States. If I produce junk military equipment and sell it at a 500% markup, your tax dollars are just going to me. They're not going to soldiers. Soldiers are poor working people. Okay, it doesn't go to soldiers. All right? Now you might think, well, if we had this or that, our taxes would be higher. We don't want to get anything back. We just want to pay less taxes. All right. So you make as much money as you can. You work your ass off. You work 2-3 jobs. You got a house. You're making mortgage payments. Maybe you got a little business going on the side. Maybe you're a farmer and you're investing your whole heart, mind, and soul into that farm. All right. What does the banking cartel do for you once every 10 years? What do? Oh yeah, the stock market crisis. Think for a second about that as being a form of taxation, because it is. At that point, when the stock market crashes, you lose your shirt, interest rates go sky high, what do you lose? Oh, well, you lose your house, you lose your business, and you lose your farm. Maybe you lose your marriage too. Well, the bank doesn't really care about that. All of these things are then the property of the bank. Doesn't matter that your house was 90% paid off. Now it's the property of the bank. Okay, here's another thing. If the government borrows $30 trillion to bail out the banks, who gets the bill for that? Well, the bill goes to you, right? You've lost your house, you've lost your business, you've lost your farm. Now you've got a bill. They borrowed $30 trillion in your name. Who gets the $30 trillion? The banks. And they already have your house, your business, and your farm. When the economy gets better, they will sell off the house, the business, and the farm. But they keep all of that money. And they keep the $30 trillion. You only have that bill. You and your kids and your grandkids will be paying that off forever. There's no end to it. So whatever you're paying in taxes, double that figure and know that the government is borrowing that amount of money in your name. You will have to pay that back. Okay? There's no escape. You will have to pay that back. All right? You will have to. So every 10 years, whatever you've amassed, that is raked back. Everything you will ever make from your 2 or 3 jobs is going to end up being raked back. You're paying 100% tax. And you're getting nothing back for it. I want you to contemplate that just for a minute. Alright, now that you've had a chance to think about that for a second, I'm not going to assume that everybody knows what fascism is, because I don't think they teach it in the schools. They use the schools as a way of promoting what it is that they want to do. Fascism is about centralization. Okay, they want to have everything controlled from one place. Right now, the world is basically divided up into 3 parts. The main power of the banks is in the West. United States, Japan, Western Europe, all of Europe now. And they're encroaching on wanting to, well, they want to take over the whole pie. China goes their own way, and the banks don't like that. They deal with China, but they're not happy with China. Same with Russia. Russia, the banks find hard to deal with. Yes, they successfully broke up the Soviet Union, but they're not done yet. Until they can totally take over China and Russia, they will have what they see as an incomplete fascist world. They want global domination. They want, first of all, they want to eliminate any friends of China and Russia. Examples of that would be Iran, Venezuela, Syria, Libya, places like that. They would like to bomb those nations into oblivion, and they succeeded in Libya. Now, if you look at Libya today, they said they were doing this for humanitarian reasons. They were going to bring democracy and freedom to Libya. If you look at Libya today, you see a failed state. Okay, you see an absolutely failed state. No freedom, no democracy, death and destruction everywhere. You see ISIS controlling most of it. Gaddafi had established the most prosperous nation in North Africa. He kept a lid on the rest of the continent. There wasn't this migration. As soon as Gaddafi was gone, there was this massive migration into Europe, resulting in Brexit. Bankers don't really care about that. They wanted to get rid of this friend of Russia and China, and they did. They destroyed Libya completely. They have destroyed Syria completely. Have you seen videos? Maybe not. Probably not. But their cities are in rubble, okay? If that's the kind of freedom and democracy they're talking about, you wouldn't want it, neither would I. Now, what do we do? Okay, how do we prevent them from taking over the entire globe? Because if they take over the entire globe, what is that going to do to the media? Okay, well, if we think we've got an absence of information now, imagine if the globe was all under one centralized bank, all right? They would have absolute control over everything we do, over everything we hear. We might be told we're no longer entitled to vote. We might be told officially, you know, the middle class is just not in the public interest. We're all going to be poor now. We're all going to make the same minimum wage. Now, can you see how important it is for them to disarm us completely before that happens? Can you imagine if we're told there's not going to be elections anymore? Can you imagine, as hard as you've worked all your life, we're told we're never going to make more than minimum wage? And then if we don't like it, we're an enemy of society. We're the terrorists. Can you imagine what that would feel like? And can you imagine if everybody's been disarmed to the point where the government with the military and the police and all their tools to spy on us would have such power that there'd be nothing we could do? Okay, well, that's what we're up against. That's the goal of the fascists. Now, I don't know exactly what the American people can do. I mean, I've got some ideas. I said yesterday, if you start if every American, or even half the population or a third, bought into a party, a $10 membership, two parties, one to the left, one to the right, could be the Green, could be the Libertarian, okay? That would break up the four-party system, but you need to have a goal beyond that. I think really you got to get rid of Congress. You got to get rid of the whole presidential system altogether and establish a British parliamentary system. Not centralized like what you have now, decentralized. In other words, confederation as opposed to a federation. Now don't confuse that with your Civil War, okay? This has nothing to do with racism. Canada has a confederation. It means a dissolution of power. Instead of all the power being in the central federal government, it's spread out more. Provinces have control over healthcare, education, this and that. Moving that power to the state level means that you're closer to the seat of power and you have more say as a citizen over the expenditures of your tax dollars, how education is managed, healthcare, and so forth. I would say a parliamentary system, a British parliamentary system based on a confederacy like what Canada has would be a huge improvement. You could have as many parties as you want and the money would be out of politics. Okay? In Canada, it's hard to get people to go into politics because there's no money in it. They say, you know, some really sophisticated people are wealthy, but they don't want to go into politics in Canada because there's no money in it. Wow, wouldn't that be a problem that you would like to have in the United States? I think that's a problem you'd like to have, and you'd be right. Okay, last night, just for the hell of it, I said, okay, if I was going to be living in the United States the rest of my life, and I wanted to put on a yellow vest and start protesting and say, hey, this is no good. Number one on my list of demands, okay, I want to establish a Confederate Parlimentary Democracy. Number two, I want to establish a free and independent media, okay? Leave the internet alone. Let us have our freedom. Number 3, give us honest elections. Okay? The whole world can see how American elections are rigged, but your media is not talking about it, so you're the last to know. Okay. Take the roadblocks out of collective bargaining. If people want to do collective bargaining, let them do it. These bills in the United States, they call them right to work. All that is union busting. It's like the days when the Pinkerton men would come with their clubs and their jackboots, and the people that were wanting to start a union, they just beat their brains out. I think those days are coming back. Now, not everybody wants a union, but depending on what kind of job you have, you know, you got to have choice. You got to have freedom. You want to start a union, go ahead. They don't want you to have that option. Okay, fascists don't like unions. They tend to kill union leaders, and they kill them. Like, seriously, they kill them. Okay, well, provide universal health care. Sure. You know what? If there was a cap on military spending, like in the United States, military spending is almost 4% of GDP. And that doesn't include nuclear. It doesn't include what goes into CIA, NSA, and it doesn't include what goes to veterans, okay? So it's probably closer to around 6% of GDP. China, the ones we're supposed to be afraid of, they spend less than 2% on, of their GDP on military. Yet we're told they're aggressive because they're building islands to defend themselves from us, basically. So they're aggressive, but we're spending almost 6%. We're supposedly the good guys. If you put a 2% cap on that, the United States would still be spending twice as much on military as anybody else, but the money saved would be more than enough to pay the total cost of single-payer health care and balance the budget. So you'd still be paying the same amount of tax, but you'd be getting free health care like the rest of the world. You wouldn't have a military that's being built up, not to defend you, but to take your freedom. Okay, not to defend you, to take your freedom. Make no mistake, the police and the military are being built up to take your freedom. That's why your civil liberties are being suspended. That's why you're being disarmed. Make no mistake, all right? The military is to get you, not somebody else. All right, cap that at 2%. The cash that you'll save means not only do you not have to spend a dime more on taxes, but you get free health care, and the budget in Washington is balanced. So they're not borrowing money on your behalf. This will also be a huge boon to the economy, by the way. All right, so number 6, well, abolish Congress and the presidency. That fits with number 1, which is establish a Confederate Parlimentary Democracy. Number 7, regulate the banks. The reason you have a stock market crash every 10 years is because the investment banks were allowed to join together with the regular corporate banks. This destabilized the system. Instability, we're told, is a bad thing, but they used that to rake everything you have ever worked for away from you and into their pockets. So it's a scam. The banks need to be regulated. Number 8. Tax the stock market. Okay, there's something you can tax. All right. I already mentioned cap military spending at 2% of GDP. Number 10, withdraw from NATO and from the Five Eyes. NATO was all about, we were told it was about protecting us from the Soviet Union. This was a Cold War thing. Whether that's what it was set up for or not, the Cold War is over. Now it's being used to bomb, well, we're currently bombing 7 different Muslim nations that have never attacked us, never wanted to. Bombing them off the face of the earth. That antagonizes the Muslims. That's perfect. We want them to be vilified. We want people to be afraid of Muslims. So if we bomb them off the face of the earth, they won't like us, and that'll make them seem scary. All right? Five Eyes, same idea. Fanning the flames of hatred. Our tax dollars are fanning the flames of hatred. We're killing Muslims all around the world. We got our drones flying around, 2,000 to 3,000 drone strikes every year. So you can be pretty much sure, you know, between 10 and 50 Muslims are getting blown away every day. These are people that have never been charged with a crime. These are people that will never see their day in court. If somebody in Afghanistan is defending his farm and he lifts up a pitchfork, he's a terrorist. He can go to Guantanamo Bay, get tortured for 20 years. This isn't why we pay our tax dollars. This isn't what we want. Is this what you want? I don't think so. Now, I'd like you to do something. I'd like, if you can, if you could write me a note, because we gotta start talking to each other. The fascists don't want us to communicate. They want to shut down the internet. They want to shut down things like Facebook and Twitter. They don't like it because we're talking to each other. I want you to talk to me. I want you to tell me your thoughts. I want you to give me ideas for future content. Okay, give me some ideas. Ask me something. I'll do a whole video to answer your question. Okay, I would really like it if you would do that, because we need to communicate with each other. All right? It was absolutely terrible what happened in New Zealand. Absolutely terrible. And when I first saw the Prime Minister being so compassionate, I thought, that's wonderful. Why do none of the other leaders have any compassion whatsoever? But then it occurred to me, New Zealand's in the Five Eyes. They're paying to create hatred. They're paying to make these maniacs in Australia want to kill Muslims. Why wouldn't they? We're told they're the enemy. They're coming to get us. Okay? Of course people are going to do stupid things. And when it happens, the fascists love it. They love it. They are hoping that white people will retaliate. Muslims will come back and forth hatred. They'll be able to disarm New Zealand so easily, suspend all civil rights so easily, and then they've got us right where they want us. All right? There. Thank you for your time. My name is Scott McGurn. Please like and subscribe and have a good day.